Hello again, everybody.
What's up, party people?
Welcome back to Movement Monday. We're here with this video series. We're trying to address different misconceptions that happen in the fitness industry when people want to put movement first when they're trying to accomplish a fat loss goal, strength goal, or performance goal.
So this week we're just going to address the simple fact that people often think that movement only needs to be addressed when people are injured.
So in terms of movement, we want to get a baseline. So what are some things in your life where you want to follow a baseline? Two concepts that we use to relate to our clients is vision and blood pressure.
So think of the functional movement screen as really your movement equivalent of checking your blood pressure. All it is a way to screen out or find out if there's a potential issue that might need to be addressed. We understand that people just aren't used to looking at movement as something that you need to be proactive about, or that they even understand that there's actually a readily available standard. So addressing movement proactively and trying to bring yourself up to a certain movement baseline, it's a new concept. I mean, it wasn't invented yesterday, but it's actually just starting to gain momentum in the industry.
So before we go any further, we want to take a step back. What we want to convey to you in this video is that there are two different styles of living, basically, whether we're talking about movement or we're talking about blood pressure. There's a proactive approach and kind of the approach where you're just hoping things go well and you're reacting to what life throws at you. We want to take the proactive and reactive approach, show you how that relates to blood pressure, and then show you how the blood pressure idea relates to movement and how you can be proactive in your approach to fitness and movement as well.
So with blood pressure, we know that we want to get your number to 120/80. Anything above that, there's an elevated risk. With movement, it's that simple. With movement, the number one predictor of injury is previous injury. The number two predictor that we can control is asymmetry. So with the movement screen, the goal is to get all of the 7 movements to a score of 2 or better and to make sure that you have no asymmetries.
So there's two ways that you can address things in life. There's a proactive approach and a reactive approach.
When you're being proactive, it's as simple as dealing with minor issues early and often. If we take a proactive approach and we boil it down to its most basic parts, what you're doing is you're addressing minor issues early and often. And in doing so, you make yourself more likely to live life without restriction.
Everybody wants to live a life without restriction and wants to be free, but the fact of the matter is a lot of us at times, for different reasons or whatever we're thinking about, we want to avoid the issue. We want to skirt it and then hope it takes care of itself. But especially in health, we know this isn't always true. A lot of the times it turns out that we put an issue to the side and then we end up fighting an uphill battle. Then we are forced to make a really hard change when maybe we could have addressed it earlier. And then if we're lucky enough, we end up at hopefully somewhere in the same result. We're still able to live free, but we could have done it a lot more simple. The other avenue is not addressing the issue at all. And unfortunately, we all know somebody like that in our lives who just doesn't address the thing that they need to, even though we encourage them time and time again to take care of it. And ultimately, it leads to discomfort and it leads to a life with less freedom and less choice.
In fitness, you could take a proactive or a reactive approach. The foundation of our business is the functional movement screen, and it's what allows us to be proactive about movement. Unfortunately, not everyone understands that this is something that's actually a necessity and can help improve your results. In order to help you understand it, we want you to not only realize that there is an option in terms of proactive and reactive, I want you to relate it to something that most people understand, like blood pressure.
The first step in being proactive is actually trying to gather the information. Going to the doctor's office and getting your annual physical, even if it's just once a year, allows you to know if you're at risk. That's exactly what we're doing with the functional movement screen at Results Driven. We're letting our clients know, are you at risk for something happening, whether it's an injury, whether it's just hitting a plateau, or potentially a plateau in terms of fitness or in terms of body composition. We want to give people that information to allow them to make the appropriate choice for where they are and give us the information to help guide them in the right direction.
One of the ways to make sure that you're able to live a healthy life is to just get your blood pressure checked on a regular basis, 1 to 2 times a year. If you find out that your blood pressure is elevated, in other words, it's over that marker of 120/80, all you need to do is make some basic changes. So you can address lifestyle things like exercise, nutrition, or things like stress reduction. If you do this on a regular basis, you're at you have more of a chance to live a long, healthy life without restriction.
And we want you to live a long, healthy life. Unfortunately, there's a flip side to the coin, and that's where a lot of the communities in our country are going. They're going the route of having high blood pressure, but not taking care of it. They're not going for regular checkups, and they're either left to waiting for a wake-up call or slowly just dying, unfortunately, because they're staying oblivious to the fact that they really do need help.
If you're somebody that's lucky enough to have a wake-up call, whether that be severely elevated blood pressure or something minor that happens in terms of your health, you can be lucky enough to fight that uphill battle to make a change. Like Mike was saying, though, on the other side, if you continuously ignore it, unfortunately, we know you're just taking the freedom of controlling your life out of your own hands.
Going back to how this all relates to the gym, that's why we want you to get movement screened. We don't want you to wait for that time that you blow out your knee or you need a hip replacement or you have to have back surgery. We hear that stuff from members here and there that they've had significant injuries while training. Lots of miles logged, lots of weights lifted. Something's nagging, and then over time it just ends up meaning they take a lot of time off and never get back to it, or they're severely limited in their exercise choices over time. Two concepts that we regularly relate to our customers and our clients about is two concepts that
And it begins. So think of the functional movement screen, the series of 7 tests in that screen, as your, whether that's because it just hasn't been addressed, or maybe some people just feel they have an inherent right to move because it's their body and they've been moving their whole life. No, I'm going too deep. I don't even remember how I started that. I'm starting to black out again. So we completely understand why people aren't used to addressing movement. I mean, the bottom line is having a movement standard is actually a relatively new thing. The bottom line is having a movement standard is actually a relatively new thing. The good news is the research behind the functional movement screen, just fucking stupid, so dumb.
Now, if you refer back to our video from last week, you would know that that's not true. But we want to start to relate why that's not true in terms of concepts that people normally think about. So you don't have to just be injured. Oh, damn it.
That was good.
It was.
I almost felt like it was going to be one take for the whole thing.
That'd be fucking crazy.
Now it's going to be 300 because you messed up. So with blood pressure, we know we want to get our blood pressure to 120/80. That's the commonly known number. So when you're trying to address movement,
Unfortunately, there's a flip side to the coin. And that's where a lot of our fellow friends and compadres are falling into right now. That's where, unfortunately, our country is.
just start that whole thing over.
Okay.
Because you said Frello, pretty sure. This is the year that rings, though, so I could be wrong.
Unfortunately, there's a flip side to the coin, and that's where a lot of the people that we know and love end up falling into that category, where they're either waiting for a wake-up call.
If we totally boil down a proactive approach to its simplest terms, what you're doing is you're dealing with minor issues early and often, and so if we boil down a proactive approach to its simplest terms, so if we boil down a proactive approach to its basic parts, so if we take returning people to a set standard of movement is the basis of our entire business.
Ooh, I like that.
I got it though. Returning people to a set baseline in terms of returning people to a set baseline for movement. So if we take that, in order to help, we should do an experiment. I'm gonna get 8 hours of sleep the night before we do this.
Okay. It's never gonna happen.